welcome to Busted Speakers. I'm Kush,
I'm Alex.
And I'm Cam.
and today we're going to be reviewing the collaboration album by Flo Morrissey and Matthew E. White, Gentlewoman, Ruby Man. Flo Morrissey is a New England folk artist. This is her second album. Pretty new in the industry. I think she started in 2014. And Matthew E. White is an American singer-songwriter known for his rock and jazz fusion music. And he has quite a few projects under his belt with different bands and different groups. But overall, just like as a looking from above, I enjoy this album. I enjoyed the shit out of this album. I think Matthew E. White's vocals are phenomenal. I think he's a great singer. There were some portions when Flo Morrissey has like the very distorted vocals, and I didn't enjoy it as much. But I think she has some serious talent, and I think the distortion kind of hurt her, but overall she's very talented as well. But Matthew E. White, goddamn, did he have some great vocals on this album.
Oh yeah, well, I first heard about this via Flo Morrissey, but then I saw it was a duet album or collab album with Matthew E. White, and I was definitely in there. And I agree, I also enjoyed the shit out of this album. It's a cover album, but I don't see how that's a problem in any case, because a lot of people seem to not consider cover albums as seriously or not analyse it as much, but it's still a collection of new songs and, you know, still very much up for scrutiny or positive feedback if we so choose. And yeah, I really love this album. It kind of reminds me of I don't know if you know, but Matthew Sweet and Suzanne Hoffs from the Bangles, they released a set of cover albums like this, you know, like duet albums. They released 3, and it really reminded me of that.
Yeah, I love this album too. So far, this is probably my favorite of the ones we've done for Busted Speakers this year. And mostly because I just really love bluesy modern rock or indie folk, whatever the heck you want to call it. And regarding Flo's vocals, I actually I don't know if they were I don't know if I'm thinking of the same songs you were, Kush, but I don't think that they were distorted so much as she was just singing in a different register. And it seemed like that sort of thing happened every other song, like mostly actually when she was trading off with Matthew Smith. It's Smith, right?
No, White. Matthew White.
Sorry.
E. White, yeah.
Matt Smith. I got Doctor Who on the brain.
It's a good thing to have on the brain.
Yeah, and like they were trading off, like in the opener, Look at What the Light Did Now. That's like one of the ones where she goes higher, and it was like just underneath what I would have thought was annoying, mostly because just the rest of the song is so phenomenal. And when she does background vocals, or when she has the whole song or most of the whole song to herself, then she sings in kind of a lower register, and yeah, her voice is amazing.
So let's just start off by track.
Well, I just want to say that I agree, Cam. This is definitely my favourite of the albums we've covered. So by default, it's also my album of the year so far, which I never expected from a cover album. But this just has a great sound. It sounds like 60s, 70s production, like one of those albums, but remastered. So the sound's really there, and I just love how they can go from funk to soul or funk to pop to folk stuff so seamlessly with such a consistent production. I'm just amazed by all the different covers that they covered here.
So let's just do it track by track then. So the first song, Look at What the Light Did Now. I didn't catch who the original artist was for that one.
This is the only one I didn't really look in, because I saw who made it, and it was just some nameless indie duo from the early 2000s. And when I saw that, I knew that they hadn't like done anything too different with their cover, but you know, pretty obviously it's a really good song, and they did a great job with it.
Yeah,
It's worth Feist on the original version. She has a lot of indie cred.
Yeah, I think this song had a really nice funk vibe, or like a soul vibe in the intro, and I think both of them sounded great when they switch off and sang together and whatnot in the song. And they had a great energy going throughout the song, and it really had me dancing and singing. And
Did it really?
it's a good intro track, I would say. I think it's a very, very good intro track.
Yeah, it really got me into the album. Really upbeat. You know, it helps that they covered a really solid song where they didn't have to experiment around too much to get the right sound. But this was just so upbeat, you know, so catchy, so positive sounding that I really got into this one. Really love this song.
Okay.
I can't imagine a better opener for this kind of album. It just lays everything out on the line, lays their talent, their influences, just the quality of their production and everything like that. It was fantastic.
So the next song is Thinking About You. I think that was Frank Ocean. And
Yeah.
Frank Ocean, Channel Orange, I think Channel Orange is a fantastic album. And this was one of my favorite songs on the album, so I was excited to see that they covered this. And God, Matthew E. White's vocals are just amazing on this song. He starts off with like the tornado flew around my room, and then it's gripping, it's danceable. I think it's more chill than the original song. It's like very toned down and relaxed, but I think that sounds just as good as the original song.
This made me actually notice the lyrics, because the original song's like so intense. You know, the original song's amazing. It's one of the best soul songs of the decade, I'd say. And this one made me appreciate and notice the lyrics, because in the other one I'm really just focusing on Frank Ocean's performance of it, basically, and the melody. But here, you know, the lyrics are pretty good, and it's good that I could just latch on to the production on here as well. I'm just amazed by how good Matthew's vocals are. I mean, he really can go really far with these different types of songs.
I think my favorite part about Thinking About You is just the way the Flo's vocals, and I think Matt's the main guitar player, like his guitar playing in this chorus just work so well together. You know, they're like kind of doing different things, like just actual lead guitar just seems to be so rare these days, and having him go off the way he does while she's carrying the song, and her vocals are actually kind of buried in the mix, but they still stand out and work really well.
And this is what I meant by the heavily edited. She throughout the whole song, I think she had a slight echo on her vocals, which kind of just irritated me. But I think as a song compositionally, it was done very, very well as a cover.
Yeah, it's not as good as the original, but it's definitely, because there are a lot of songs here I would say are better, and I'd say this is actually closer than a lot of other ones to almost being better, or at least equal. So I think the reason they have the echo is maybe because since she doesn't have the best vocals ever, even though she's quite good, maybe to help her hold a candle, make her voice a bit fuller to come close to Frank's, maybe.
So the next song was Looking For You, and I think the original artist was Nino Ferrer. I never heard of him.
Which is quite interesting because he's a French songwriter, and this is one of the only songs he originally wrote in English. And it's amazing how well because I don't think English is his first language, although I might be wrong, how well and the lyrics come across, considering that.
Yeah, so Looking For You, the guitars in the beginning were very haunting and gripping. Like, they had this weird, like, just menacing aroma around them. Her vocals, again, I think on this track are slightly edited to the point where I'm not really enjoying it. Or maybe she's singing a higher tone, which I don't think is as good. I don't really enjoy that as much. But the problem with this song was that towards the end it kind of got repetitive and boring.
Yeah, they definitely extended this one beyond the original track length.
And I think this was the one song that kind of just... It was good, I liked it. It's just a bit longer than it should have been.
I think this is maybe my favourite. I don't know. I don't know what it is about long songs that go on too long, because most people don't like that, but for some reason I really get into them. It's a recurring theme I notice that I seem to like the songs that go on too long, so I doubt you'll ever see me criticizing a song for that. But I think they just got such a great melody on here, which has actually changed quite a bit from the original, because the original was folk, and this one's more, upbeat art pop soul kind of vibe. I just think it has a great atmosphere, this song. I really loved it. They have great vocal dynamic, I think.
I think it's the shoot, you just said something, then I lost it.
Sorry.
Alright, it's just, there's just something about whatever it is that makes this cover so moody and atmospheric that just carries it through the length. Like, I didn't notice it being all that long, and I mean, it's still under
same.
5 minutes. I feel like if it had gone, like, even 5:10, then I probably would have noticed it being too long. But, it's just, it works for me. It feels like there's, like, actual, like, movement in it. Like, it's going somewhere all the time, and then it ends,
That's the thing I've noticed, that unless it's a punk album or something like that, and if a song's under 5 minutes, I never usually consider like the length being a problem, because it never usually is for me. I don't know what, unless it's really repetitive. Like, I can't think of any just now. But if a song's really repetitive for 5 minutes, it'll be a problem. And this maybe could qualify as that. But I agree, Cam. The atmosphere is so overwhelmingly good in this song that it just carries this song so far. Because I think if you look at the original lyrics, there aren't much. There's only 2 paragraphs, but they sing it a lot slower, and I think their performance, which is what you really want to rate with a cover, is so strong, so powerful together that I really love this song.
Okay, so the next song is The Color in Anything by James Blake.
Right.
I don't know who James Blake is. I'm not very familiar with him.
James Blake, he's pretty good. I'd say he's like an artist who's a bit confused about trying to find what he does, because if you hear his albums, he's probably the most vocal processed artist ever. Every song I've heard from him, he has auto-tune, but he uses it in a way that the vocals can be really beautiful and different sounding. This is a testament to me that he's a really good songwriter, but his performances himself sometimes bring the songs down, because the original is quite good, but this cover brings so much out of it, I'd say.
Yeah, so with this song, I was kind of upset Matthew didn't have any vocals in this song. Just a little upset, but I think Morrissey sings much better on this song than the other songs she has, and I think it makes up for it. And I think just her style of singing matches really well with the minimalistic instrumentation in the background. And I just give it a plus. This is a good song.
All that.
Yeah, well, the original had some really clunky drums or beats, and I'm glad they didn't try and replicate those. And Matthew kinda had some vocals. He had like a hummed background thing that might not actually have been him. It might have actually been Flo, but he had a really strong contributing factor to the atmosphere with those, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a good song. I prefer this to the original.
So the next song is probably my least favorite on the album. Everybody Loves the Sunshine by Roy Ayers Ubiquity.
Yeah.
I felt like the vocals worked well together in the song, but it was a boring song. I don't think they pulled it off the way they could have, or I guess it didn't pull off any of the other songs. I just got really bored with this song. I think it's the only one I didn't save to a playlist.
Cam?
I agree. Sorry.
I've got a lot to say about this, so I think you should say what you want to say just now, because I'm amazed by how much I wrote for this. God.
Okay. I would also probably say it's my least favorite on the album, but I still think it's pretty good. My problem with it is that it was just too obvious that the original was a funk song. Like, obviously all the other songs on the album have like indicators of what the originals sound like. Like you can probably guess that, like, you know, some of them are more soul R&B based than others.
Yeah.
Some are more just like pop and rock classics. But this one is just like, yeah, this is a funk song.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. Yeah.
Not
yeah.
bad, but it's just like pretty clearly that's what the original is. It doesn't feel like I mean, I didn't even listen to the original yet, but I can tell that this is probably pretty close to what it sounds like. And if I'm wrong, then I'm gonna look
I
stupid.
listened to the original, and you're bang on the money. This is a verboten cover of the original, and the problem is, I still don't see that as a detracting factor for some reason, because soul, my favorite genre is like funky soul, because obviously I'm a party animal and I need the tunes to get me going.
Oh, we all are
But-
deep down.
We all do deep down. So when I found the original, I was like, yes, a new guy for me to get into. And yes, they cover the original pretty much exactly. The exact same sort of synths at the start, or keyboard lick. It's done basically the same. And I don't know. They're not doing any drastic changes here, but beyond their like vocals and the production. But the fact they can do a funky soul number like this next to a future garage guy like James Blake is amazing to me, because this is the most variety I've ever seen being covered on a covers album, because I've listened to more covers albums than I'd care to admit. Like one time I just went on Amazon and searched covers albums while I looked him up, and I bought a couple for no reason other than I wanted to hear some. Which is a pretty sad way of finding music, I'll admit, but there is an art to having a good cover version, and if you can pull one off like this next to James Blake, and there's some other stuff here that's very different from the original here, it's just so good to me, and the production is so consistent throughout this whole thing. I don't know, they just keep a whole production sound despite how many genres they cover. I'm amazed. But yeah, this cover was probably pretty superfluous, unnecessary after hearing the original, but I'm still impressed.
Yeah, so the next song was Grease by the Bee Gees, and everyone loves the Bee Gees.
Well, it's by Frankie Valli from the Grease soundtrack, though.
But didn't the Bee Gees cover it as well?
I don't know. Maybe like an album track, but yeah, Barry Gibb
got confused. Sorry,
Barry Gibb did write it. From the Bee Gees.
Got confused about who the originals were.
You guys must have seen Grease.
I hate the movie. It's terrible.
My dad likes it. I think I've seen like half of it.
It's not worth it.
Well, this is the best song from Grease, and it's still not the best song ever, obviously, but yeah.
But yeah, so I think this was a fun danceable song. I do think the cover was kind of like just toned down compared to the original song. Well, the Bee Gees version that I heard.
Right, yeah.
But I think Matthew White's vocals are wonderful, and the raspiness in his voice really works well with this song, especially it being toned down. And I think Morrissey had the least amount of filters or whatever on her voice, so I think this just worked really well for her.
Yeah, they toned down the disco of the original. Yeah, this is pretty good, yeah. It's placed very well after the Roy Ayers cover. Yeah, far less dated sounding than the Frankie Valli or Bee Gees versions. It's definitely more up to date.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Although it's still a really cheesy song. Like, I can't get over that. I mean, they did as good a job as anyone could ever do covering this song. I'll admit that, but it's still, this song.
It's nice to see them, step out of the, I guess, for lack of a better term, the comfort zone that they've carved for the majority of this album of the, soul and funk type sound, and obviously there was, being written by the Bee Gees, there's probably at least a little of that in the original, and the whole 70s, 50s nostalgia thing. But it's just like interesting how they could like just that they would even take a song from a soundtrack that's iconically cheesy, from a movie that's iconically cheesy, and actually treat it seriously.
Okay, just before we get on to the next two songs, I just want to say they did do a good job with them, but I consider these next two songs, the originals, to be two of the best songs ever made. So, yeah, you know them all, right?
So yeah, Suzanne by Leonard Cohen is probably I'm a big Leonard Cohen fan. I think everything he's made is just wonderful. Probably one of my favorite songs by him. But I do think it was Matthew E. White singing this one, and his raspy voice worked really well for the song and did a lot of justice to it. And Morrissey had like the gospel choir vocals in the background that sounded really well with everything put together. And I was just impressed by how like the atmosphere the song created. It was so impressive.
I feel like he channeled Leonard Cohen a bit.
The Leonard Cohen spirit, rest in peace, inhabited Matthew E. White.
This is a really good tribute to him. Yeah, like I say, obviously they'd have to do something otherworldly to beat the original, which I consider to be one of the best written songs ever. It just sends chills up my spine, the original. But this one, it's a pretty good cover, although I wish Morrissey's backing vocals, even though they're quite good, were a bit more haunting. Because the backing vocals on the original are some of the most ethereal, beautiful thing I've ever heard. But she does a pretty good job. And I wish they did it a bit more folky, because they kind of did like a moody, atmospheric, gothic vibe with this a bit. But yeah, definitely a good tribute.
The first time I listened to it, I thought it seemed like a little too close to the original, but then I re-listened to it and I realized the only thing that really is very close to the original is the melody, and I mean that's kind of obvious, it's a cover, but at the same time I don't know most of the other originals on this album, so I can't really say how close or how far like they are from like being in the same melody, same key, same time signature or anything. But this one did seem pretty close with a major difference in the in Smith's White, I'm an idiot, performance, and Cohen sang it out more, if that makes sense, and White was more quiet, almost a whisper, and then the music was much more bombastic, like not totally in your face or anything, but it was just, there was more to it, more going on than there was in the original, and that helped make the whispered vocals work. Like if they were doing a whispered vocal with just acoustic guitar, then it would have failed miserably. But changing up the vocals and or changing up the vocal style while not really changing the melody too much, and beefing up the music behind it, really sold everything about this song.
Oh yeah, this is definitely much more bombastic than the original.
Yeah, I did love this song a lot. Next song was Sunday Morning by Nico and the Velvet Underground. Probably one of the best albums. Well, I forgot which album this was on. Which album?
It was on their first
one?
track of the first one.
Yeah, VU and Nico.
Yeah,
the first song on it.
I think that's probably pretty much recognized as probably one of the best albums ever created.
Yep.
And I think they do a really good job just getting the old school rock and roll sort of vibe going on, and it's well produced, and I don't know, I think they both in unison have something going for them really well.
I can't believe how well they did this, because the original Sunday Morning is basically like a proto dream pop song, and they actually channel the Velvet Underground on this, but not the Sunday Morning Velvet Underground, more like the I'm Waiting for the Man Velvet Underground, in the rock sound. So it's really weird hearing them sound like that specific song covering another one, but by the same band. So I was really impressed by that. I just really love what they did with this. It's such an interesting and different cover. I mean, it abandons the dream pop vibe of the original, but it's still really impressive what they've done to make this sound like the next song on the album, track 2, I'm Waiting for the Man, so much. I can't believe it. It's still not as good as the original because that's one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard, melody-wise. But I'm still really impressed, and this is probably the most like impressive change to original on the album.
Yeah, I don't know. I think almost every song on here is just a phenomenal cover of what the originals were. That does a lot of justice, if not surpasses it. Next song was Heaven Can Wait.
I think it's to pop in on that one.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I honestly would put this song in kind of the lower ranks of the album, which again, everything is still fantastic here. I can't totally put my finger on why, and I agree that this version of it definitely kept the 60s sound, but just a very different 60s sound. But it also kind of sounded like a TV show theme song or like a movie's theme. And I didn't quite get another Velvet Underground song vibe from it. But it just sounded like, it could have opened, a 60s variety show, that sort of thing. But my favorite thing about it is the way, this might be weird, it might be kind of confusing, but it's like the way the piano in the chorus suggests the melody of the glockenspiel in the original, without actually playing the same notes. Like, it was just chords that kind of moved the same way. And my favorite thing about the original is actually the bells, Glock, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's what gives it the dream pop vibe, mainly for me.
Yeah, and so there were definitely great things about it, but it was just a little too camp, I guess, for me to really love it.
I don't know what it is, but that cover, and it's not just I'm Waiting for the Man, but it sounds like all the rock songs they do in that album, like Run, Run, Run. I don't know. Did neither of you get that?
I think they went for something different, which is good, because I think like what was the other song that they covered the same way, the funk song, Everybody Loves the Sunshine?
Yeah.
I felt like I wish they'd done something different with that song, and I think they did something different with the Sunday Morning, and I think they pulled it off really well. So I don't know. I think it's pretty well.
I'm just thinking that I don't know what it is, but it made me think it was exactly the same sort of sound that they captured. This amazed me.
I think this is too heavily orchestrated compared to View and Nico to really sound like anything else on that album, because I remember that album was like pretty sparse. Like, I mean, just the very basic setup with some other embellishments here and there maybe, but nothing. This felt like for some reason it made me think of like the Mamas and the Papas more than the Velvet Underground, kind of like a California Dreamin', that sort of thing.
Maybe, but maybe I need to listen to it again. But when I heard it, I just thought that is I'm Waiting for the Man, a version of Sunday Morning. Maybe I'm just going off the deep end, but
I think it was a good cover of it. I don't know.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, probably talking too much about this one anyway.
So next song was
these episodes.
Yeah. The next song was Heaven Can Wait, and I have no clue who made it. I couldn't figure it out.
It's a weird one. It was written by Beck, but he gave it to Charlotte Gainsbourg, which is Serge Gainsbourg's daughter, to cover on her 2009 album. So it's a bit of a weird circumstance, but yeah, I think this is one of the more less interesting songs for them to cover.
I think I like the song a lot. I think the most interesting part about this song was when they are singing, there's electric guitar in the background. When they sing, the electric guitar goes away, and the absence adds a bunch of depth and just really just keeps you interested the entire time. Maybe I don't know, I felt like this song was a fun one to sing along to as well.
I don't know, there was just nothing interesting about this one to me, other than the electric guitar, which I thought was one of the better played parts of the album. But I just found this was one of the more less interesting originals that they found to cover. But they still did a good job. They still maintained the same atmosphere and production, basically. So it's still really good. I just don't think it's the best song to begin with.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with Alex, but I also think it does kind of work well as the calm down, the I don't want to get too high-minded here, but like the denouement, I butchered French, I have no idea how to actually say that, but it's just like, if Sunday morning is kind of like the climax, then Heaven Can Wait is kind of, a falling action before you get to the nice, steady resolution of the last track.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Yeah.
Govindam, that was by George Harrison, right? Or at least produced by...
It's written... he gave it to the Raga Krishna Temple, which was a Indian raga rock band signed to Apple in the early 70s. And this was actually a hit in the UK. It got to like number 7, the original. And I only know it because I got a label sampler which had this on it of Apple, other than the Beatles, which has stuff like Badfinger on it. And yeah.
So with this song, firstly, I don't understand the whole like the George Harrison Hinduism influence or Indian influence with music. Like it's fine. I just never understood why it happened, or
I can tell you why.
I
can tell you how he got.
I want to know.
During the filming of the Beatles' second movie, Help, there were a couple during one of the scenes in a Indian restaurant. There were some people playing sitars and Indian music, and I suppose in between takes, George got talking to them and started playing around with them because he's the main guitarist of the band, and then he put the first piece of Indian influence in a Beatles song, Norwegian Wood, which he played pretty straight. He just used a sitar in the same way he'd use a guitar, but that caught the attention of Ravi Shankar, and basically that led to George getting really interested in Indian classical music and incorporating Indian music as a whole into a lot of Beatles songs, which is pretty interesting. It's probably actually, looking back on it, one of the most interesting things that the Beatles ever did, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I like the influence. I felt, okay, so this song, I don't want to knock him on it because it's probably not the first language, but the pronunciations were a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, because I understood a little bit of it. I don't speak the language fully, but I understood enough of it to know that the pronunciations were, for most part, a mess. And, which is fine, I'm not going to knock them on it because that's not their first language.
Wait, are you talking about Matthew and Flo?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, Matthew and Flo's, yeah.
Right, I was still thinking about the original guys.
No.
and they're Indian. I was like, oh dear.
Well, no, the Radha Krishna temple, they're a whole bunch of white guys from Europe, aren't they?
Are they? I thought they were some of George's friends he met via Ravi.
No, I think so. That's the weird part, that they have this weird this weird like Hinduism movement in England and Western countries, where people are just converting to Hinduism, which technically, according to the religion isn't allowed. You have to be born into it, but whatever, that's not important.
I'm just amazed that this actually happened. Like that song actually became so well known. Like, people in the streets were singing it. Like, I know people who are like, I know that song. I can't believe. Like, when I saw this on the track list, I was thinking, no way is that song. But it was.
But yeah, so this song on the album, on Gentlewoman, Ruby Man, it's not bad. It's a good attempt. I wasn't really a big fan of the original song, and I think the way they did it well for sure. But it wasn't one of my favorites in the album.
Yeah, this is my least favorite, just because I think the original was a pretty decent piece of raga rock, and this added nothing. And actually, I think they went a bit too fast-paced towards the end. I don't know. They tried to make it into like dance jam kind of. I think they went too fast-paced with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
I actually can't believe how fast it gets. Almost like a rave tune. Obviously not dance, but I mean like whenever Animal Collective makes something really fast-paced, like Brother Sport or the end of My Girls, it's so fast you could like groove to it. It reminded me of that a bit because of the indie rock vibe of the album. It's different, but the original's still better. And it went on. They covered it too long. It's too long. It's like 6 minutes.
Yeah, this one definitely is the one that fit into the album the least well. I think it might have like worked better if it was a bonus track or even a hidden track or something like that. But I mean, it's still like I said before.
Sorry.
Like I said before, it's just nice to see the diversity of their influences and their willingness to extend beyond what you might expect from them.
I was just going to say, if this was a hidden track, I would have gotten a big shock.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, but overall, this album was really, really good. I think also one of my favorites we've covered so far.
This is my tentative album of the year. I'd love to hear a volume 2 of this, like if they got together for more songs.
What would you rate it, Alex?
I'm going to give this an 8, which is really high. It was much higher than I thought I'd give it, but I love this. I love the whole sound they got, like sunshine pop rock for most of it that can blend into different genres. It's probably the best cover album I've ever heard. It'd be so easy to dismiss something like this. So easy. I almost did. I really did almost just say a cover album, forget about it. But I'm so glad. I love this album.
How about you, Cam?
I'm going to give it an 8 too, and it's probably going to creep up to a 9 by the end of the year. It was just fantastic all the way through, and I'm definitely going to check out whatever else these two have available.
And I'm going to complete the triple 8. I originally gave it a 7, and I've listened to it this morning while I was working, and I think I underestimated it, and I really enjoyed it the second time through. So if you can, listen to it again. It's worth it.
I'm going to very soon.
Okay.
Probably gonna like buy it.
I mean, if they're selling it, I would buy it as well.
Are they not selling it?
I don't know. I haven't checked. I'll probably check afterwards.
Okay. I need to know.
Okay. Well, if that's it, then thanks for watching Busted Speakers. If you like our video, make sure you like and subscribe. Let us know what you feel about the album in the comments below, and check us out on social media. And definitely listen to this album.